Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Thank You for Your Reply podcast. Today, we're going to talk to Dani Beit-Or, the founder and CEO of Simply Do It. Thanks for coming in.
Morning. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to share.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe to start off, just briefly introduce yourself and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Dani Beit-Or. I have been a real estate investor and I started my company more than probably around 15 years ago. Simply Do It. I've been personally investing in real estate since 2002. So, that makes it a little bit over 20 years. I actually started investing in US real estate while still living in Europe and buying a single family home right outside Phoenix, Arizona, which is kind of funny. I haven't been investing in Phoenix for years, and I just bought one there, but exactly 2 months ago. It's just kind of, it's been a while since being active in Phoenix. And so I bought, in 2022, my first rental property. I done seen a different country, different culture, different laws, regulation, time zones, like so many gaps. Google was a startup back then. There weren't Google Maps weren't around. Zillow wasn't around. Even the MLS was crappy. If I say the MLS back then online was crappy, that's a compliment to the MLS. At the time, they made a significant improvement since. No Zillow, Redfin, and all those beautiful tools that we have at our disposal today. None of that, right? Public records online, forget about it, right? It sounds like only 20 years, but a really different era for investing in real estate. Fell in love with this real estate thing, US real estate thing. And I decided that I really want to pursue it fully. And in 2004, my wife and I just packed our bags, moved over to the States with a clear purpose. This is what I want to do. And since 2004, I've been helping investors, clients, people, families, mostly like individuals and families to buy long-term real estate or long-term residential rental properties in multiple or many US metros around the country. A lot of our clients are coming from the West Coast, anyway from Seattle, and, few from a very small number from Portland, but a lot from Seattle area, the Bay Area, the LA area, Orange County, San Diego, also New York, Boston, and others, and Europe as well. Simply Do It, my company, since 2004, I've helped clients buy around 5,000 homes, give or take. I stopped counting, selling too, but primarily buying, but selling too. Been through the crash of 2008. On a personal level, I've been through the crash of 2008 in a very heavily exposed personally. And I always look at it as I was even more amplify my exposure, secondhand exposure, like a smoker, exposure was even greater than that because I was there with my clients. So I had to be there handling, the 2008 crash, dealing with my own crap or challenges or problems. And there were many, mostly how to navigate or minimize the impact. But at the same time, I was there going through the same challenges and helping my clients go go through exactly the same challenges I was going through in order to come out of it in the best possible way or how to navigate specific situation. And many times even just to be a shoulder to complain and get some frustration out. Uh, that actually, for me, the 2008 crash wasn't it was not it was far from being fun and enjoyable, but it was heavily I always say that's my PhD in real estate, because or at least in residential real estate, because that brought me so deep into so many nuances related to real estate investing, real estate owning, mortgages, challenges, foreclosure, short sale, like so many things that I had to dive in order to navigate through those uh, challenging times. I just had to dive in. There was no other way but to dive in, and that taught me a lot. And actually, in 2010, when I decided to set up Simply Do It, my company, I kind of I didn't clean my slate completely. I cleaned everything, that I was the way I was doing, but I brought all my experience, right? All those tough times, I brought it over and I said, I'm going to start from scratch. And when I say from scratch, how we go about choosing a market, how we go about choosing an agent? How do we go about choosing a property manager? How do we go about analyzing, evaluating and analyzing properties and so on? I'm an engineer but before I got my engineering degree, I think I was always an engineer by mind. Right? For me, the engineering degree was very fitting because I'm already systems and processes and checklists and project manager thinking and tasks and all and milestones, etc. It was just natural for me to make sure that I line all this big puzzle of real estate investing into creating some order in this chaos of activity or somewhat chaos of activity. And that's why I kind of created Simply Do It, because I felt there's a need for answers, for guidance. Because a lot of people that I meet with, they usually understand the value of real estate investing, right? But many times they live in areas that the real estate around them, within up to an hour, even more than an hour, usually is very expensive and relatively the rent are low and the numbers are challenging. And when someone comes up to the idea like, okay, I see the value in real estate, how should I, how do I go about executing it? Locally, it's so expensive or does it make sense? The numbers don't make sense. Then a lot of questions start coming to mind. Where should I buy? How should I buy? How do I analyze? Who can I trust? Trust is a big, big word here, like property managers and realtors. And how will I minimize the chances of me making a huge mistake and losing a lot of money? So there's a lot of questions that come up in terms of I call it the knowledge bucket. There's just a gap of knowledge. We all know real estate, but then when we start looking at real estate, we don't really know real estate in details, right? We know the general of it. And then comes the question of execution, right? How do I work with people that are understanding the concept, or even if we teach them, about real estate, then they have fear and concern and lack the confidence to actually pull the trigger. And that's where we help them as well. So it's not just about knowledge, giving people. Simply Do is not just about teaching people. We actually don't have a mentorship program just as a mentorship program. It's more about how do we help individuals or couples execute on their plan, get to the first property. And many times, we proceed with going on to more than one property. Usually the first one, unsurprising, is very challenging. So that's kind of how Simply Do It was born, is to really help, handhold, navigate, on one end, we put the tracks. On the other hand, we still handhold our client's hand through their multiple transactions. The first one is more challenging, but the other ones are not, maybe not as challenging, but still there's always challenges, questions, concerns, etc. So it's kind of, sometimes I like to think about it that I'm like a big brother, right? Someone knows that they have their big brother on their corner, helping them, they can talk to, they can run something by, someone who's been big brother, like already been through the process, can tell them what to watch for and how to avoid situations. And when you get a situation, how to get out of that situation. So that's kind of what Simply Do It is all about.
Okay. Yeah. So you kind of get people, launch people on their career into investing, and also let them go through their school of hard knocks as well.
Correct.
Like you had your baptism in the flames of the 2007 collapse. Learned a lot from that.
Deep dive baptism.
Yeah.
Deep water.
Yeah, there was one of those river ones where you get dunked in.
I was white water baptism.
Yeah. You got to go off over
Stage 5.
The waterfall.
Correct.
Well, so jumping into the details of your business a bit, with your like revenue goals for in a given year, what specific metrics do you use to track success, to measure your success, and how do you determine your benchmarks?
Well, we measure primarily the main metrics is number of transactions per year, and that's what we are focusing on. That has been the primary metrics for a few years. In 2003, I decided that I need to add a few more metrics, a few more KPIs, and we started developing. I was always looking to develop more programs, but decided going into additional investment programs, or I should say similar yet with a twist programs, in order to increase that metrics of numbers of transactions. But what I saw what was the big there's two things that I notice primarily. It's always there, but I kind of decided to put a focus on them. I've noticed them a long time ago. But I primarily saw there's two things that if I help resolve those, it will help my current clients continue buying or improve their performance, but also attract more clients. And those two key metrics are, number one, how do I significantly improve the cash flow for my clients? Not necessarily on existing houses, that too, but more on maybe on how we buy, continue to buy maybe a little bit differently. And I can elaborate on that, what those things that we started doing are and how they look like. And the other thing is also on the property management. And the property management for many investors, actually, unfortunately, property management can be one of those things that can be such a sore and such a pain point for owners, but also for investors wannabe. I mean, I've heard people saying, if I need to deal with property managers and all that hustle that comes with it, I might as well not do it altogether. And, it's one of those sentences that I can't blame them. But at the same time, I think they're overreacting because I've been doing this for 20 years. I've worked with hundreds, or I don't know, maybe I worked closely. That means many transactions, many years, with probably more than 50 property managers, right? Very close relationships. There's the guy. We have one of the property managers we work with. He has, I don't know, 450 doors, maybe 500. Out of those 450, 500 doors, 200, maybe 225 is our clients. So that means about 50% of his business is coming from us. The guy, we're very good friends. When he wants to make changes in the company that are impacting, not changes to personnel, but something with process or fees, he calls me up and he says, those are the changes I want to make. And the first time he did it, I'm like, okay, why are you calling me? I'm not your employer. I'm not, he says, Danny, there's two reasons I'm calling you. One, you're probably the one person that I know that if I call seeking advice on the operation, you have extensive experience on one end, so you'll tell me what you think about my ideas. And the second thing, you tend to say and tell me without simplifying it, the honest truth. You're not walking around the item. You will tell me exactly what you think, what could work, what couldn't work. So I get both a true feedback from an experienced person, and I know it's a true feedback and not just something polite, which I just don't.
Not sugar-coated.
You're not going to sugarcoat anything, and that's what I need. And then the second thing is, so many of my clients are your clients. If I do something without your blessing, it will be hard your clients would not appreciate that. But if it comes from you, or I have your blessing, or you will help me articulate the change, then they will be more receptive for it. So I want to make sure I'm not, kind of hurting your clients in a way, or I need your help because I need to make some changes here. Things don't work well, and it's actually in your client's favor. It's not against not in their favor. So that's just an example of the relationship. He's not the only one that we have a property manager. However, property managers, there's a lot of, for me, traditional property management is like a, lack of a better term, broken piping system, right? Now, it's not fully broken. It's just leaking, right? It's old and it's leaking. But the problem is it's a small leak over here and a small leak over here and a small leak over here. And there's maybe 10, 15, 20%, even 20% of leakage. But to fix each point is very challenging. You're really,
Time-consuming.
Time consuming. And think about it. It's a big system. It's going to be very challenging to fix. None of those property managers sees the need to fix, there's so much effort to fix here, and it's only improving 1% or 2%, right? So why trouble, right? Also down here, it's also another 3% improvement. But why trouble? So much effort just for 1%, for 3%. And nobody of them is taking a look at all the system. And I decided I need to take a look at the entire system and really redesign a lot of the processes and the way they operate, and reverse engineering, lack of a better term, And in 2024, a year ago, we launched an alternative way for our clients to manage their properties, not using property managers, right? And I'm emphasizing it's an alternative way, meaning we are still operating for the most part with the traditional property managers, but now we are just offering our clients another methodology, more self-reliant with support to manage their properties. And let me give you an example of that. We have in one of our markets, we introduced all of them, we introduced a new function. We call it a listing specialist, right? Listing specialist. What is a listing specialist? Someone who specializes about listing properties, but they do it the Danny's way, right? Or the Simply Do It way, right? Meaning I completely broken down the leasing process from one tenant to another, like, and then I completely broken it down into tasks. And I said, okay, most property managers, they do everything one step after another, right? There's rarely two tasks being done at the same time, or there may be a little bit overlapping. And in my humble experience, that doesn't make sense because we lose valuable time waiting for something. And that means the owner ends up 2 weeks, 3 weeks of vacancy just because the system is inefficient, right? And this has been one of those things I've been talking to the property managers for years, and they always push back on that, right? And they give me excuses that they're not wrong, but the reasoning, it's always the same reasoning, is absolutely true, and they're not wrong for 20-25% of the turnover, right? What about the other, even 70% of the times, even 50%? Maybe they're making it up and they're right 50% of the scenarios. How about you create two scenarios, scenario A and scenario B? And scenario A is what you're already doing, the inefficient one. But how about you do the scenario B, my way? And you just understand that you can do things differently and they just don't, right? Guess who's doing scenario B? Right here, right? So I started doing scenario B. I introduced a new person in one of our markets. She's a listing specialist. And I called her last week, sweet person. I said, her name is Caroline. I said, Caroline, you're giving me a lot of problems. And she's just new to working with us, right? She doesn't know me well. We spoke several times over the phone. She sees that I'm already sending her work. So she's happy, but we're not close in terms of relationship just yet. And she's going, what happened? What did I do? And I'm like, Caroline, you're making all the other leasing agents who operate under the property manager in the traditional way look very bad because you're doing things so well. And she started laughing, saying, okay, I get it now. Right? I get it. So that's just to show she is producing such better results, actually so far exceeding my KPIs, right? I thought I'm gonna able to turn around the listing by at least 50%. She's doing like reduce the vacancy by more than 50%, or at least 50%, and she's doing more than 50%. Reduce of vacancy days. So if you're an owner and you're thinking each day of vacancy, not only that it costs me, let's just say $50 or $60, right? If you take all your fixed expenses and mortgage and you divide it per day, it's going to be $50 per day expense. So at least it's costing you $50. And, that's not an expensive house. That's 50. Let's just use that, right? 10 days off, 10, you know what? 20 days, it's $1,000. It's not a lot of money. If you were to rent this house 10 days, sorry, $2,000, not $10, $2,000. It's significant. If you have two houses, it's 4,000. Right? If you have two houses, multiple years of those things happen, it easily adds up. That's real estate really quickly adds up, right? Thousands of dollars that you're spending. I'm not talking about the income. Add another, I don't know, $500 for cash flow profit for those periods. That really adds up, right? And why is it happening? Lack of efficiency. Right? And
The leaks.
exactly, right? It's exactly that, right? So I didn't invent the wheel. I only took a working wheel. I said I need to refine how it's operating and do it. So this is an example how, going back to the beginning of the conversation, how I decided I need to tackle just making this alternative way of managing properties is very likely to double the annual cash flow. double the annual cash flow, right? It doesn't end up to be thousands of dollars, but when we are struggling on getting to two, three, 4,000 a year in cash flow after realistic expenses and mortgage and everything, we are working hard to get to 2,000 a year, let's just say, right after everything in cash flow. When you have a mortgage, and it's very challenging, and it translates to obviously less than, but I don't know, not even $150, $160 a month. If I'm doubling, if not even I'm doubling, let's just say I'm able to find a way how we can do another $100 a month in cash flow or another $1,000 a year. That's 50% improvement. That's a lot on one house, right? It's a lot of money over multiple houses over multiple years, right? And one of the challenges I'm facing, going back to the changes, is how do I, like the question I ask myself back, probably I've been asking this for a long time, but back in 2023, I started taking more steps towards that, is how do I improve cash flow for my clients, especially in a higher interest rate environment, which is definitely part of it. And I came up with, this is one of the options, is to rethink property management the way it's done today. By the way, along the way, you kind of boost more things that the clients are complaining about. Higher transparency, first of all, right? Everybody wants more transparency. Higher level of involvement on deciding who's going to move into my house. Today, most property managers do not share the applicant information, right? They only tell you maybe on a good day, two adults, two minors, one pet, both work, very profile-like, right? And by the way, if something doesn't work well with that applicant, the owner is on the hook before the property manager. So you're putting someone in my house, you're not asking my permission unless there is a gray area, but usually you don't if they pass, which we understand. I don't get a say. I don't get to see what's going on. We change that, right? Right now, if the applicant comes in, you're the owner, you can determine, right? To do that. So there's a lot of areas of inefficiencies that we touched of completely redesigning it. And the clear goal was, how do we improve? How do we increase the cash flow for my clients? So that was number one. The second area, or the second, same, going after the cash flow, is completely looking at houses and saying, how do we generate more cash flow regardless the management, right? So we did two things. We took it in two directions. The first direction was started going after, and we're already up and running and doing that, what is known midterm rentals, MTRs, midterm rentals. So we are when I started investing, there was only one category, or for the most part, known categories, the long-term rental. We just call it a rental, right? Today we have STR, short-term rentals, which is like Airbnb. We got traditional LTR, long-term rentals. It's been around forever. And now there is kind of a new category. Now it's new, it's not a new category, it's just being given a name, MTR or midterm rental. The midterm
Like
rental
the
in
traveling
short,
nurses or things like that.
corporate housing, people from insurance problem, people that are coming from, let's just say, military people that are coming for maybe even with the family or not with the family for several months of some school, some military school, that they are just going to be there for anywhere from um 3 months or more. So, maybe you were coming with your family for a summer project with some university, all those things. There's a lot of people that are in need, even people that are selling their house and now they need another house until they found their next house, right? So if those people are usually they're going after the Airbnb, right? Obviously. But MTR is very similar to Airbnb with few clear distinctions. Number one, when I say very similar, they're fully furnished, but they're actually furnished a little bit better. So for example, though I say not better, more, they are more suitable not as a vacation rental or a short-term rental, but a house a family can live in for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. They can have guests and barbecue and cook and everything. Right? Yeah. Many of the vacation rentals are not set up for this, like a full stay. So that's a small distinction that when our houses, the family can move in and start living immediately, right? Sometimes they do come like I don't want to say overnight, but very quickly, unplanned. So we are going after those type of category because my partner for this category and I said we don't want to do anything like we want to move away from the hospitality business. We don't want to do the Airbnbs just because the Airbnb has a lot of more noise, right? More noise. It's broken. I can get in. There's no light, and it's like you're in a hotel, and when you're not happy about the sheets or the towels or something, you call the front desk. Except the front desk is maybe down the street,
Yeah,
one house over, or on
in a
the other side of
completely
the
different city.
yeah. So that is something that we don't want to be not the business we enjoy being in, right? However, finding those MTR, which is very tricky, finding those tenants is completely different. They come in for a month, coming for 3, 4, 5 months. They want to stay. We are always trying when we buy those houses to find a way to look at the house and find a way what can we do with the property to even make it more attractive. So let me give you an example. One of the houses we purchased was next to the garage. There was a big room that has the mechanicals, like the water heater and the heater. A very big room with a door, no lights, and it wasn't properly insulated, right? And we said, you know what? For the moment, we're not going to fully finish it. We'll maybe do it down the line, but at least make sure it's insulated, it's sealed, it stays dry. We even brought as a preventive measure a dehumidifier. There was not a need for one, but we wanted to be. And we tell people if you are in an insurance situation, we even have the storage for room for you. So you don't have to pay for storage. It's big enough of a room for you to bring your own things, small stuff, big stuff, and store them here should you want to, right? So that's a little tweak that we understand the clientele and what they're looking for. And we may be even to help them save money on self-storage if they need to by bringing stuff over, right? Just so those little things are really important. And there's more. Even in the design, we put elements how to make it a little bit more modular, more flexible. Every house is a little bit different, but that's the thought. How do we attract those people in, right? So that's the MTR. The good thing about it, it's on average probably does 4 to 5 times the cash flow, right? So this is even after you go up in expenses. So the expenses are higher. You pay for utilities, the management aspect of it, the marketing/management, which is the most intense aspect. It is not cheap. The insurance is higher. So all those things are increased, but you are ending with a much higher cash flow because we look at the house. The nice thing about the MTR, it's a very big mind shift when we're looking at those properties, those houses, as a space that we need to maximize occupancy. And we put together different systems and different methods how to boost occupancy on those spaces where the target audience or the target clientele are the MTR. And then we supplement with other ways to like still do Airbnb to close the gaps, just to make sure we are looking at it as how do we make it occupied, right? So that's just
Yeah,
one way.
no empty
Yes,
nests.
no emptiness, right? I mean, we've had situations where the same day we had move in and move out, for example. So that's the goal. The goal is to keep it occupied and maximize revenue because all those fixed expenses are just fixed, whether it's right, whether it's someone is there or not, within reason, right? Within reason. We don't take everything and we don't do, there's different categories. Someone like some people even let the adult industry, film industry, use those houses. We don't. This is where, for us, it's just, we think it's too much hustle, too much trouble, we're not interested. But if someone comes in and they want to do a baby shower, or I think one of the houses had 5 girlfriends came for the weekend to celebrate one of the girlfriends' birthday. We had something, or maybe they were there just the past weekend. We had we're mainly doing it in the Atlanta area right now. So we had a Falcon player came to town for a training period. So all those things, and we had insurance people as well, like situation that came in. So that's kind of where what we're doing. So the good thing about it is, as an owner, you should be expecting to more than double your cash flow, right? Way more than double. So it's worth the trouble. The other things that we started doing, or I started doing, is looking at more creative financing deals. And when I say creative financing, is this good that I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
move along?
yeah. You're going to go into the subject to and
Yes,
other.
yes. Yeah. So when I say creative financing, I do mean things like subject to and VA loan assumption. Now, here's a full disclosure on myself when it comes to those things. So I have been aware of like I've been in the States for 21 years. I have been in real estate, more than 21 years. I'm aware of the VA loan assumption and the subject to deals for all my career, right? And they always like seller financing, it's not a subject to. So seller financing where, let's just say you have a house, no mortgage, you sell it to me with the seller financing without the mortgage being there, you become the bank. Easy, simple. I love it, right? There's like, I've done that maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times. I think one of them I was the seller. So I've done that. Easy. There's no additional mortgage involved. Easy, simple, very clean. Subject to is not as clean. The main reason it's not that clean, it's not illegal. It's just a little bit messier.
Complicated.
And the main reason is because the subject to in short means you're buying a house subject to the existing mortgage, right? Meaning, Rich, you sell me the same house we talked about it a moment ago. You
Yeah.
sell it to me, but I buy it from you. I take, I transfer title from you either to me or my entity, and you keep the mortgage in place. So the mortgage, your mortgage with your 3.5% that you got during COVID stays in effect. And I'm just taking over. To keep it simple, I'm the new owner, and I have an obligation to pay the mortgage. And if I don't pay the mortgage, there's consequences on me. And you can always go to a third party to make sure the payments are done. I'm not paying you and you're paying the bank because I can trust that you will actually make those payments, right? So it's very, very straightforward, but there's a lot of things that need to work, and there's multiple complications when it comes to insurance and the deed and the mortgage. And one of the biggest fears known in this industry when you do a subject to is that technically you don't let the bank know, right? You're keeping everything stays the same. You just don't tell the sellers, right? Original mortgage lender know what's happening, and you are, or technically the seller is, in breach of contract because there's a known clause called due on sale clause that if you change title, the lender may call the loan and you would have to pay it quickly. So that is the biggest known risk in this category. But for 20 years, all I'm hearing is that people do it quite a lot, or maybe
A
a lot
reasonable
is
amount.
and very rarely does the lender actually send a request for you to pay the mortgage, right? Which they can do, and that's a risk you have to take. And I always wasn't. Now, I've seen 2 letters like this in my entire career. Twice that I've seen an actual letter, not a friend of a friend who told me of a friend. I don't trust those stories. I need to see myself. When someone tells me, show me, right? Not only show me, I want to understand what happened, because there's maybe something happened there to trigger
Mhm.
that. So I've seen 2 letters. I don't know the story behind those letters, but I've seen 2 letters. That just tells me it's very unlikely to happen, right? And what I've learned over the recent year and a half, even when that happens, there are ways how to navigate out of that situation. It's not the end of the world, right? It's not
Always
you're
a
losing the
solution.
house. Yeah. So this is why I finally said, you know what? Now that I understand how to minimize the chance of this happening, that have proper set of documents to protect my interest over the long run, because I am still, in many ways, me and the seller are still intertwined one way or another, right? We are not really, as long as the mortgage is on the seller's name, there's always going to be linkage between us, right? Now, me and the sellers are not friends. We don't know each other, right? So we are complete strangers that who knows what's going to happen after the fact. So you got to make sure you got everything as much as possible. I've done my first subject to deal in August. What can
is
I
it
say? It went, there are kinks, but it went well so far.
is it so you have subject to,
It's
but then
subject to,
there's the assumable
right. Now,
mortgage. That's almost like subject to, except
exactly.
the mortgage actually goes over to the buyer.
This is very clear distinction, but super important and has some caveat on it. So unlike the subject to where you're doing it without officially letting the lender know what's happening, right? In a VA loan assumption, you're actually I am already 2 months into a transaction of his VA loan assumption that I'm trying to buy as a buyer. I'm actually working with the lender directly, me, Danny, going through the qualification process with a lender in order for the lender to qualify me as a borrower to assume officially the mortgage exactly the same terms the VA has on that property. So I can tell you I'm 2 months in and I'm still, the lender keeps saying it looks okay, but keeps asking for things. The biggest problem when you're talking about, so what I love a VA loan assumption is that it's clean. The day I'm assuming the mortgage, that VA loan is coming on my credit report like any other mortgage, and there's no VA knows what's happening. I'm just taking over the mortgage and, of course, the property itself. So when everything on closing date, I will be the owner, and there will be a mortgage on my name that is a VA mortgage with the terms the VA had when I took that mortgage. So the mortgage stays the same. The mortgage is transferring to a new owner, basically, and the house. And it's a maybe simpler way to explain it. The challenges are, first of all, notoriously known that the lenders are taking their time and they're not rushing through. And I am firsthand experience to already 2 months in, and I am very proactive. I almost every other day checking in with the lender, what's going on, what's going. So the main person who's pushing the process is me. The lenders are, there's no rush, right? I don't know why, right? That's one. So you never know how long it's going to take, and that is a challenge because you need a seller to understand that I don't have control over how long the process will take. It may take 45 days. It may take more than 90 days, right? And if it's going to take more than 90 days, then the seller needs to be okay with that, right? So some sellers, I'm going to say, listen, I can't live with that uncertainty. Now, there's also a possibility that maybe 70 or 80 days into the process, the lender comes back and says unapproved. It's approval of the buyer or who is assuming the mortgage is on the lender's discretion. So a seller may say, "Hey, I'm not approving," and the lender may say so, and the seller just lost 60 days, 70 days because they're not on the market, right? The house is contingent. So that is a big problem. What I do, I tell, when I engage with a seller and seller's agent, I make sure they know everything up front. So no, I'm not hiding anything. I rather surface those problems up front, tell them what's going on. Most agents are not knowledgeable in details with the VA loan assumption. So I kind of teach them, I give them it's very simple and easy to understand once you know it, right? I point out those are the challenges, right? Challenge number one, challenge number two, challenge number three, whatever. I tell them, I say, now take it to the seller. Make sure the seller is completely okay with this, because if they're not, let's not even start the process, because that's going to be a very lengthy process, and and not in everybody. I don't want to waste anybody's time, especially myself, but also for them. So only when they fully understand what's happening here, and they come back and say we're interested, then then we can move forward. And that's actually what's happening right now. I'm 2 months into a transaction that I really hope we can close within a month and a half because I'm traveling to Europe. Yeah.
So you talked a lot about it's what your Simply Do It is like almost like a coaching business, but you're also investing as well, right? So every business faces barriers to growth. What's been your biggest challenge, and what systematic approach are you using to overcome it?
The biggest challenge is, the challenges are always shifting between two two ends. Which is for me, it's completely crazy. When real estate is doing well, and everybody wants to buy real estate, I have a lot of buyers, and then finding good, qualifying, relatively good cash flow properties is a challenge, right? So you got a lot of, it's a seller's market, hard to find your compete. We've seen it very well in the past few years. Super hard to find those qualifying properties. Not finding properties, qualifying properties, really important, is very difficult, especially with the cash flow and all the criteria and a good market. Simply Do's philosophy is, I call it boring real estate, right? Most of my clients are busy individuals with their families, their high paying, I'd say demanding jobs. So between life and work and and everything else, they don't want to deal with the properties or as little as possible. So they're looking for what I call, and that's the attraction for them to work with us, is the boring real estate. It's not passive, but we are really trying to push the passive aspect to the limit, so they would be as little as active as possible. That frees them to buy multiple properties, and they don't have to deal with it as much, right? And they all understand it's not 100% passive. So that's my client. My typical client is like a couple in Silicon Valley with 3 kids and demanding jobs. And many of them are, both of them W-2, working. They travel, they have family, they have social life. They want the real estate to be as passive as possible. These guys, they're coming in bigger numbers when real estate is high, right? Or there's a lot of talk about real estate. Obviously, they're coming, and then finding properties is challenging. So those areas is the properties. Then I have to put emphasis on the teams, on finding properties. That's the biggest challenge. The other side is, we say right now we're shifting towards consumers are a little bit more concerned with the Trump and administration and the changes and all of that. So consumers are kind of, and my buyers, my clients are also consumers. They're more like, okay, let's sit on the sideline and see what happens. And I think it's crazy, because when do you want to buy? When times of uncertainty is when you make money, is when you're successful, is when you get better deals, not when everybody's running towards real estate. So this has always been the main challenge. You kind of finding good opportunities when everybody's coming, and now opportunities are here, and bringing my clients, new clients, or the existing one, to buy more. Right? There's always people who understand it and buy, but now
they're too nervous to do it.
Buyers list, the active buyers list is smaller. Yeah. But I think on the top of that, it really comes down to cash flow, right? So the people love cash flow. Cash flow is like the king of, it's like if I send something with high cash flow that I find with high cash flow, that excites people. That gets people from looking to engaging, right? And that's why some of those subject to deals are like, whoa. I just evaluated the subject to deal this morning. I'm still working on it, but I'm kind of reviewing it. But in my analysis, after all the expenses on a what is it, a $255,000 house, which normally I would get today in today's rate, let's say on a good day, $200 a month, $200 a month in realistic cash flow, including, after expenses and vacancy and repairs and property taxes and mortgage, I'll get $200 a month in cash flow. This one is 750, 745. So it's almost 4 times the cash flow, on the same transaction, subject to, right? So it's not a little bit. Now, if I send this one out, I already know more people will be receptive, but it's not for everybody. This is a little bit, this is not your 101 beginner's deal. This is not even your experienced investor's deal. There's going to be someone who understands. This is going to be, very likely there's going to be some more friction, noise, situation, challenges that are manageable. They would just require more time and attention. So it's not bad. It's just, so is it worth it? Definitely for the right people, right? And someone have to walk them through those challenges. And we do. I do it all the time. So that's not a problem. So just to give you an example, how I'm really trying to solve the cash flow challenge in order to solve those 2 challenges, right? But at the same time, right now, my active buyers are more dormant. They're like less engaging, which I can't blame them. Although, what can I say? I feel like how do they say that the age-old phrase, buy low, sell high?
Oh, yeah.
But isn't it? But I'm telling you, everybody's doing exactly the opposite. I used to think it's a theoretical. I know it firsthand. I'm buying. I'm buying. Right.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm exercising exactly what I'm talking about. But I see those opportunities, and I am like, "Yep, I'm getting you. Here's a great deal, but you just have to engage." And, you know, that's
So
kind of
are you finding that your clients right now are more of the type that are upper echelon, that are have more risk tolerance and a little more um, likely to do those kind of deals that are
my clients. Most of them.
the scarier deals?
Um, Well, I have a lot of clients for many years, so I got everything, right? I got people who are sophisticated enough, have multiple transactions under them for many years that understand the challenges, that would not hesitate, right? And then then I have beginners or beginners plus, right? Beginner plus, maybe someone who's buying their second or third deal. I have very good friends. They just closed on their third house a week ago. No, maybe 2 weeks ago. First of all, they're very, very, very good friends of mine, and I don't think they would do real estate if they didn't have the trust level in me. Trust is there, but I know it grew on them because when there were questions and challenges and situations, which they called and they saw the support they're receiving, not just because they're friends, because this is how I treat my clients, right? So that increased their confidence in in doing a transaction. And actually, I'll tell you something interesting about this transaction in a moment. But if they come up to me tomorrow and say, we want to do this deal, I can tell you, I would tell them, listen, this deal is way over your pay grade or experience level or comfort zone because of those things. Because I don't think it's a good fit for you. Now, at the same time, I have one guy that he hasn't purchased the first, he's in the process. He just started working with us. And I think he's not going to do a deal like this for the first one because it may be too much of moving parts. But I have a feeling that this guy on the second deal is going to be ready for something like that. Right? He has that mentality and hunger and wanting to do something more advanced, but he still wants to go through. He is ready for the deep water, but he wants to start with shallow water first, and then he will. So and that would be my advice for him as well. So let's not jump in, or even if with my support and help, let's wait with that over there. The interesting situation with the couple that bought the third house. So this house that they bought this time, she's very financial minded in their house, and she's usually the one who sees, like, she's very analytical. She's very kind of engineering their mindset and thinks through very detailed. So she kind of sets the tone financially in their relationship. And this time she was so busy. She is very busy. She's always busy, but she kind of let her husband take the lead. And as they close, she calls me, says, I'm super nervous about this deal. Exactly at closing. It's exactly when the money was transferred, but it was not there yet. Something like this, literally. And she calls me, and they're very, very good friends, and they live very close. I come in for coffee, and she goes, all right, I need you to walk me through. I know everything is fine, but I'm at unease. Walk me through. And we go through what is title, what is escrow, how do we evaluate this deal, everything that we already did twice before, and on this one, who's done what, where, when, who went to the property and when, what did they find out. We go step by step because she, in the middle of the night, woke up and got bad intuition about the deal, right? And I think what happened is she got the bad intuition because she was very out of her character to let it go. So he got nervous. And then we spent an hour going through all the details again, right? She already bought the house. She can't pull out, right? This is her house. But I realized that she needs a reassurance that we didn't skip, which we didn't, anything, right? And I told her after the conversation, we even created an action item that said, okay, you want to check this thing, and I know you want to be extra comfortable with this and that and this, which I don't have those answers in front of me, but you can do in order to make sure you're comfortable with something regarding the title, you call this company and you talk to them and you ask them the following question. If you want to know something regarding the recording, if you want to know something regarding this appraisal, etc., and I just give, here's what you need to do, and here's who can give you the answer. Here's what you need to do for item number 2 on our list, and here's who's going to give you the answer, like step by step. And she did, right? And she was a little bit nervous, but we went through and covered everything. She is now at ease, right? Because everything is fine. See, but she still got nervous.
Yeah.
Here's a classical situation where they're closing and they still have concern. They would not be a good fit for subject to, in my opinion.
It's no wonder that it's such a much more rare format of going through home buying. From what you've been saying, it seems like your daily your business has a lot of moving parts to it and a lot of plates to be spinning, balls to be juggling, and with the industry kind of shifting rapidly towards AI and automation and all that, have you started employing those kinds of things, pieces of technology?
So yes, but I feel like I am on a very superficial level. So first of all, as a business, I see that I more and more dump on the AI some Excels and some documents for not just give me a better phrasing, but like review, come up with conclusions, come up with what do you learn, what did you find out. One of the you know uh, when a new client comes to meet with us for the first time, we ask that potential client to complete what I call an intake form. Intake form is maybe 3-4 minutes, not too personal, not intimate enough, not too intimate on one end, but then it does have open questions, right? And people complete them very well. I mean, people put thoughts to those questions. And what I love about this intake, and I've been using it for 15 years at least, is that people think about the answers, and when they show up for the meeting a few days later, their mindset is already in a more progressed stage of the conversation. So it's almost like we don't start here. We start a little bit more advanced with our conversation after the hellos and small talk. And that
Yeah,
advanced.
I'm like that too. I like to process things first.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's such a simple thing that I employed 15 years ago. And, it's one of those simple but super valuable tools that in my business. Like it's one of those things that did not change. Maybe I added a question, maybe I phrased the question a little bit, but it's a pillar in the business, in the process that has not changed for many, many years. Guess what? I have thousands of those lines completed by clients. Thousands. One of my favorite questions is, what are your concerns? What are your concerns? Very open question. What are your concerns? Right? Or what would you like to accomplish? Open question, right? I take all those thousands of lines of years of people answering, right? And I dump it and I do a research paper for myself, and that was something that in the past it would take a lot of hours to get to that point and get the answer and review. That was, within a few minutes I got that research paper for my own business. Because if you really think about it, people just go on that intake and they share, here's my concern, here's what I think, here's my experience. People put answers, like it's not just losing money, which that happens too, but it's not just one line. So those kind of things I'm seeing that I'm using more and more. The other thing that I really love, I started using is, use the AI to help me proper phrase listing a property, like the description, because that's so annoying and so repetitive and so lack the
Oh, yeah.
imagination. So it's very marketing, but it's kind of a little bit with the twist, because it's, I love it. I love doing that. On the website, I'm now searching, setting up a new website for some inventory. So I'm already exploring how can I automate it with the AI. I'm not sure just yet, but how can I automate it with the AI? So that's why for me, beyond the marketing phrasing, which is obvious, that is something that I'm trying to push it on the research and conclusions. I did my first video. I didn't like the results, like script, audio to script
Oh, yeah.
to that. Just yesterday, I converted my ebook to a podcast through Google LM. You familiar with that tool? It's simple, but it's done so well. I mean, they took my ebook. It takes your ebook. It took my ebook. It usually does that, and then it had to convert it into an audio conversation between two people, and then it just makes it like a podcast, right?
Cool.
Which
Yeah.
is super cool. But
I
when
think
you
I saw a video of that. Yeah, I saw a demo of that the other day.
but you know that there's when they interesting aspect is that how they take how they add to the audio on based on the content, right? For example, there's a term I use, a lot. I call it conventional stupidity, and I use it in the ebook. And in the AI version, the guy who's now like co-host of the podcast, the virtual guy, says, "Oh, I love that term." Obviously, it's not in the ebook. They added those little human nuances that are just elevating. So it's not just converting it. Yes, I think that we all know it can be converted to audio or even video, but just taking it to the next level where it's converted with some context, with some pauses, with some more human, it just flows way better than I would be able to do that. Right? I love that. So that
Yeah,
that just happened yesterday.
this Riverside FM platform I'm using for this podcast has a AI voice generator that you just put in the text and then it creates the
Nice.
voice. And I just tried that earlier today with my intro script for one of the other episodes just to see what it would do. It was interesting. I wouldn't use it just because it made it sound like I mean, it sounded like me kind of, but if I was a Shakespearean actor or something, or like
Nice.
but it delivered it slowly like it was the introduction to a play or something, and which
You know
wouldn't
what?
really fit the remit for a podcast. So I kind
Yeah.
of
The other day, I felt that I feel like my role, not on everything, but many things on the running the business, is like an AI conductor,
mm,
because obviously the tools are many tools and scattered, right? So the conductor being, okay, I gotta start, here. Usually for me it looks like this. I start, like, if I do a video, I up, I edit it, right? Obviously, the edit many times has a AI audio caption generating. It's like nothing new here. But then I take the video and I do an AI analysis of the video. So the AI analysis of the video kind of do the summary that I can put on YouTube and then on Facebook. So it's kind of generated, which is great. So it's like, okay, I need to use this, get this content here, move it over here, use it this way, move it over here, use it this way, move it over there. So it's a lot of those. I'm an AI agent, human agent, basically. So I'm using all those elements. Each one is specializes in one thing, and I just feel that I'm moving a lot around the AI. For me, so far, the the this root of the content is still, is still me. So I may use AI to kind of bounce ideas a little bit, but just to help me kind of go through the thought process or to clarify some of the things that I want to say. If it's usually a video, then 100% me, not AI generated, except maybe ideas of phrasing, and then from that root file becomes a source that it will go to many areas, right? So that's kind of interesting. It still starts with a human
yeah.
uh, intelligence, HI, based on real experience, and then multiply in different formats. I'm an AI agent, basically.
Yeah, you are the ringmaster in the circus
Yeah,
of AI
exactly.
tools. So we're running short on time. We're running overtime here. So I wanted to throw on the last question at you to kind of get your wisdom. So based on your journey so far in your career, what advice would you give about balancing immediate results with long-term business building?
I want to give two life skill advices here, and they're not necessarily related to real estate directly. They can be applied towards real estate, but I think it's life and business. So the first one is, we're all love debating philosophically about the economy. what the economy is doing and what Trump is doing, what will happen, what will happen, what will happen. We are all very good at debating. Me too. I have never, 20 plus years of investing, I've never been able to apply anything on a philosophical debate that I'm having with my friends or with myself or with my wife, or maybe not yet, but soon with my AI, apply it towards my execution, right? At the end of the day, I think as long as we're not in a position of dictating financial policies, in our surrounding, like major, like county, government, whatever, I am also the everything. I'm the Minister of Income and the Minister of Investing. I'm the Minister of Finance. I'm the Minister of Economics. I got to make decisions, right? So I got to avoid that philosophical discussion and take it down a notch to a pragmatic level. This house or this house or this house, which one works? For me, debating on 3 investment properties, I can answer that, right? I may not have to perfect answer. I like this one for those reasons. I'm not very happy about this one. Maybe on this one, if we can change the price, we can make it work. So I'm just taking down a notch, a big notch, right? To the execution and pragmatic. Stop talking philosophical. That is not going to help anybody, right? It's really, you can debate forever. For me, it's always been good to kind of understand that I am very, very pragmatic, right? Take it down to, I can't make decision based on philosophical argument. I just can't. Maybe you can, not me. That's one. The second thing, which I think is amazing life skills if you're able to master it, and it's super, super simple. I think super simple, but it's super important everywhere we go in life, to learn to ask questions. It's such a simple, trait on one end and a critical one. And I'll give you, and I think I was always okay with that, but I decided more than 15 years ago that I need to, on myself, to take it to the next level. And my next level, I just do better preparation. Before I engage in a conversation, I list down or I gather questions for that conversation, maybe a few days leading to that conversation. And many times I even send all the questions to the other party. And I'll give you an example where it just shows how simple and critical that is. So I am subscribed to a legal service with a monthly subscription fee. That anything legal, any state, anything legal, I can call an attorney and get a consult, right? Super cheap. Don't tell anyone. I use the heck out of that service, right? Every little thing, right?
Was that Rocket Lawyer, or
it's
is
like
that one of them?
It's called Legal Shield. It's been around before,
Okay.
and as much as never mind, it's just Legal Shield, and I am subscribed to this for more than 10 years. I love it. It's so cheap, and I use the heck out of it. But what I've learned is when I have a situation, let's just say I need the attorney to review a document, right? Either sent to me or something that I put together. Instead of, usually I would wait for to call the attorney, tell them what I think, and then, they go and go back and review the conversation. And then they call me back. We wasted a week, give or take, maybe 4 days. I gather my questions. I send the document with the questions to the attorney. I know it's not an amazing trick, but when we speak, and maybe that's going to be instead of in 1 day, it's going to take an extra day. When we finally speak 2 days later, not 6 days later or 4 days later, we have a more detailed conversation. Because like, remember what we said about the intake, we already talk about the things that I want him to pay attention, that are bugging me or concerning me, etc. It's such a simple element, but you know what? It took, before I started doing it, I would take longer to get to the actual conversation with the attorney, and that wasted time. Not only that, sometimes in that conversation, the questions start coming up. Now, even if it's not perfect, and maybe the more things will come in the conversation, as they many times do, when we speak 2 days later, the starting point of that conversation is already progressed, advanced. And that means and by the way, all the professionals, without exception, all the professional people who want to provide you a good advice would appreciate you asking them questions, easy or difficult. And when you ask them good questions, they will either research, they'll find out, they'll think about it, and they'll come with an answer. But how is the alternative looks like? You send the document to the attorney and you get on the phone and you're like, okay, I understand. Okay, interesting. Is it this? Okay. such a low quality
Superficial.
content that doesn't advances me. I don't care about the attorney right now. It doesn't advances me with the situation. So if you learn to take the time to gather questions, to prep the questions, share it with the other party. No, not on everything, but important conversations. When you finally get to that call or conversation or meeting, you're going to be benefiting way more. You're going to be more efficient with your time, and you're going to be way more getting out of that conversation for your personal benefit. By the way, most professionals appreciate it. They just do. So it's such a small thing that can create huge difference in everybody's life. This has nothing to do with real estate, right? This is just life, teacher, so business everywhere.
Yeah, well, with that example, with the questions, you're also getting more value out of the time because you're not
Exactly.
just.
That's the gist of it. Value out of time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dani, for all your wisdom on real estate and connected subjects. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Always a pleasure. Thank you.